And a very good evening to you, and welcome to Politics 101 on a Thursday evening. Of course, we are here live on Politics 101. And welcome again to Politics 101. David Hines here, Thursday evening, joining us, if you are joining us from Guyana. Guyana, welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us from Buxton, Buxton, my village, welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us wherever you are in Guyana, welcome to Politics 101. Please share the link. Please share the link. Welcome to you if you are joining us from the Caribbean. Wherever you are, whether you're in Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, St. Vincent, St. Martin, Nevis, Anguilla, welcome to Politics 101. And of course, those of you who are joining us from North America, Canada, New York, New Jersey. If you're joining us from Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, welcome to Politics 101. Those of you who are joining us from Florida, Chicago, Arizona, welcome to Politics 101. We're going to have fun tonight. Not the kind of dirty fun. We're going to have a political fun tonight. We are following the following stories. 1, Freddie Kissoon's column has been pulled from Kaicho News. We're following that story. We're following what happened in Buxton yesterday. We are still following that story. You know, they were burning tires on the road and so on in Buxton yesterday. We're still following that story because we're trying to get to the bottom of it. Who was doing the burning? What motivated the burning, etc., 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 etc. The third story you're following tonight is the one that we are using as our lead. The government manipulation of the Letitia Wright visit. She was late for our appointment to meet with the mayor and to meet with the residents of Georgetown and its environs. She was late for that. She had an appointment with Ipadaji. She never showed up for that. We understand there was an unscheduled visit with the president that took 3 hours of her time, unscheduled. She was late for, I understand, the UG appointment. Manipulation of the Letitia Wright visit. These people are nasty. Shame on them. Shame. Cry shame on them. Welcome to Politics 101. You all see why we're going to have fun tonight. We're going to have some fun tonight. I'm expecting Mark Benshaw to join me. I'm expecting Adam Harris to join me. This story, I can't deal with it alone. These stories. Manipulation of the Letitia Wright visit. Making her late for UG, late for meeting the mayor, And she couldn't honor or promise to meet with Ipadaji children, black children, Indian children were there wanting to meet the new star. Who initiated the burning in Buxton yesterday? Were they friends of David Hines? Political friends of David Hines? Were they political friends of Aubrey Norton? Were they political friends of Irfan Ali? I only asking questions. I'm only asking questions. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening, Terence. Good evening, Valdine. Good evening, Desiree and Donna. Donna Liverpool. Donna Liverpool. When I was a small boy, you know, we never say French Guyana, you say Guyana. You never say Suriname, you said Dutch Guyana or Paramaribo. Welcome from French Guyana, Donna Liverpool. She is an ardent follower. Lou Perkins, good evening. Good evening, Edward David. You all hear the story? Letitia Wright, sorry. Oh God, confusing the two people. Letitia Wright, this is the film star who played that role in Black Panther. She was born on the West Bank. Good intent, I know that village well. She was born there. She left at age 7 or 8, went to England with her parents, I assume, and she's become a big star. She is visiting our homeland. And the government monopolized our time. The president, because I see picture with his family, dress up nice. Like this was the presidential, this is a family story. All the pictures I see on Facebook, all you must see them. This is a man who just done bulldoze black people houses. Who just take away money from black people organization. Who mow down black people's houses at Linden. Who lick down black people's stalls in front of the hospital. But obnobbing with an African Guyanese, a black woman who has made it. These people nasty. Obnobbing, manipulating the girl time so that she can't meet with black people or she's late. But you just don't lick down black people's house. Black people are not humans. But because they make it big, you want to hug them up. You ought to be so ashamed of yourself. These people, they're nasty, they're stinking. You all know how I feel about that chap who's the president. I've gone to my grave, not saying how I feel about it because I get manners. But then he interfere with me and you all know what I think about him. And he has lived up to the reputation he has built for himself. Manipulation of that young woman's visit to her homeland. Get her caught up in the nastiness. These people are stinking, dirty. Dirty. That's what they are.
Apparently, the president then asked her unscheduled to go. It is clearly an attempt to ensure that the citizens of Georgetown don't meet her in a proper environment. And I have another appointment, I have to go. But this is the second time we've seen this lack of civility by the government. When we had the Two-Show Council here in Georgetown, what did they do? They ensured that the night they took all the two shows and carried them to the president, and they kept them until after midnight. So that was cancelled. Today we're seeing the same thing. Scheduled for City Hall. They know that they're coming to City Hall. They know that it's the AP&E support base in Georgetown. And what they do is, we were informed that the president invited her for a meeting that wasn't scheduled, which is clearly an attempt to ensure she doesn't come to City Hall. And if she does come, City Hall will look disorganized. I want to condemn it in the most clear terms and to say this is what this president calls One Guyana. This is uncivilized behavior.
Uncivilized behavior. Aubrey Norton is quite right. Quite right. These people, you know, these people, there's something else. So she eventually turned up at City Hall. She eventually turned up at UG. But she didn't get to make it with Father G. The people spent up their money. Children were there waiting on her. I only learned of it. Many of us only learned about of what went on when we got calls from our friends in Ilpadaji, and Stabrook News carried it this morning. These are the people we are dealing with. Uncivilized. Aubrey Norton is quite correct. Uncivilized. And then yesterday in Buxton, I noticed Stabrook News said residents cause unrest, and that there were 400 people there in the unrest, and that the police said they're working with village leaders to stop the unrest. They didn't say with village leaders. I am from that village. I know who the village leaders are. There are political leaders in the village. There are sports leaders in the village. There are cultural leaders in the village. I know all of them. There are religious leaders. I know them. And I'm not aware after my checks. I checked with them. Which of you were in conversation with the police to stop the unrest? The police must have been in contact with some other leaders. They must tell us who these village leaders that they were talking to stop the unrest. I have been dealing with protests since Noah was a scout by in short pants. So you all know how long I've been dealing with protests. The police never called me at any time to talk to me about ending protests. When the police want to end protests in Boston or wherever, they're going with the guns and what have you, and shoot up and lick up and beat up. All of a sudden yesterday, they were talking with village leaders to stop this protest. It means that they have word that the people who were out there were responding to certain leaders, certain village leaders, and they were in contact with these village leaders. Look, like I said, there are all kinds of leaders in a community, all kinds of leaders. There are, as I said, community leaders, sports leaders, religious leaders, political leaders. And if they have other leaders, all the merrier. But the police must tell us which set of leaders it was in contact with. It was in contact with. The police must tell us that. Sisters and brothers, you all are getting a sense of what we are dealing with in that country. In our country, you all are having a sense. And then Freddie Kissoon. Sunday, there was no Freddie Kissoon column. There was a column on Monday, there was a column on Tuesday, and there was no column today. I saw people sending me stuff. I saw stuff on Facebook that the column was pulled, he was fired. I checked with one of my reliable sources at Kaitor News, and they confirmed to me about an hour ago that Freddie Kissoon's column was pulled. Now, as a veteran of being fired and having my column pulled, me and Lincoln Lewis, I was trying to get Lincoln, but I couldn't get him this evening. Lincoln and I, we have had the experience of having our columns pulled from the Chronicle and then from the Kaitor News. And Freddie Kissoon, now let me say before I go on to what I was about to say. I'm in solidarity with Freddie as a fellow columnist for having your column pulled. Freddie, you have my sympathy. And this is sincere, I'm not making joke. Because I went through the same thing twice. And I think there is something about freedom of speech that says that people must express themselves. I do not agree with Freddie these days, 99.99%. I don't agree with him. But his right to express his views is his right. So I'm in solidarity with him. But when Lincoln and I were fired from Kaitor News, Freddie wrote in his column that he was consulted and he agreed that we should be fired because our views on the election were not in sync with Kaitor News views. Freddie Kissoon agreed with Kaitor News to pull the plug on Lincoln Lewis column and my column because he said the newspaper's right and that our views were contrary to the newspaper view on the election. You remember Lincoln and I, and a few of us, excuse me, we did not go along with the narrative that Kaitor News and Stabrook News and PPP and Freddie and all them, that Mingo was attempting to rig an election. We had a sense that the elections were being rigged. And that they were being rigged in places which the public did not know. And so we were not prepared to go along with the accusations from one side because we had a sense that the other side had accusations. And God don't come, but he does send. And he sent, or the 60, the recount. And the recount revealed what we suspected. And we were vindicated because we didn't go on the bandwagon. And because of that, Kaitor News felt that we were not in sync with what they were saying. They went on the PPP's bandwagon. All of them, Freddie went on it and so on. And so they got rid of Lincoln and I. And Freddie said he supported it. He supported newspaper Wright, that if columnists do not agree with the newspaper view, they should be kicked out. But if my sources are right, Freddie Kissoon is kicked out today. Now, I am not saying Kaitor News is right to kick him out. I'm in solidarity with him. I think it's a violation of his right to free speech. But Freddie boy, hag, pig aski mama where your mouth so long. Mama say, wait, your turn to come. Pig aski mama, and why your mouth so long? He said, she said, wait, your turn to come. Ready? What you encouraged and supported has now befallen you. Pig aski mama, and why your mouth so long? Say, wait, your turn to come. You see, when you lose part of your humanity or let part of your humanity become enslaved by politics, this is how it ends up. And this is what has befallen my friend, Freddie Kissoon. I don't deny my friends. Freddie was my friend for a long time. He can deny me, that's his business. But in this hour, when if what I am hearing is correct, maybe it's not true that the column gets out. But if it's true, you have my full solidarity, and I am serious, I'm not joking. People may think I'm not. I'm not. But I want to say to Freddie, if you did not allow your humanity to be compromised, you would have said what I am saying today when my column was pulled from Kaitor News. You would have said, I don't agree with David Hines, but his right to free speech should not be violated. But you didn't say that. You said you supported it. So you know what you want in you. In you. God don't sleep, and he don't like ugly. God don't sleep, and he don't like ugly. You have my solidarity, Mr. Kissoon. If I could do anything to make Genlal restore your column, I would do it. It's you make a living from that. You have a right. You have a right to work and a right to eat. And I would not agree with anybody who takes that right away from you. But Freddie, you have allowed your humanity to be compromised. You know, when Stabrook News a few weeks ago, Randy Prasad write a letter, this is a PPP man who's now Freddie good friend. He wrote a letter and said, I agree with the columnist Freddie Kissoon. And Stabrook News take out Freddie Kissoon name and said, I agree with something or something. But I take out his name. He cry. And I wanted to write and say, Freddie, they do, you know, those newspapers have done more than that to people. But I leave it alone. I say, I don't want to make this chappy, you know, look more bad than he is. And no, they pull his column. They not only pulled, here, the column that he wrote on Sunday that they pulled first was a column to refute our charge that Guyana is an apartheid state. So Freddie, in this Sunday column that they didn't publish, set out to refute. And I heard him read the column last night on his program. And what he's saying in the column is that Indian people are marginalized. Basically, that's what he's saying. And because Indian people are marginalized, there can be no apartheid state. That's what he was writing. For whatever reason, Glenn they didn't carry it. I haven't studied the article yet, so but I assume they didn't care because they felt that it was out of line with their editorial policy. Fairness to Kaito News, they didn't allow, when we said Guyana was an apartheid state, they didn't carry our letters. Fairness to them. So I suppose if they didn't carry our argument, they felt that it was unfair to carry Freddie's response to our argument. Freddie Kissoon has compromised his political integrity. And your payment for doing that is now your right to work, your right to earn, allegedly has been taken away. You agree? Lincoln and I didn't used to get money, so it was not our right to earn. We were writing free of charge. But our right to free speech was taken away, and Freddie chaired it. He said, I was consulted, and I agreed. Were you consulted, Freddie, in pulling your column? You said last night, no. You only know the column was pulled when you pick up your paper Sunday night. Why, Freddie? Why? You know, look, when you play with the puppy, you get bitten by the flea. Proverbs. And then the Proverbs mood tonight. You play with the puppy, you get bitten by the flea. People ask him, why you mouth so long? Wait, your turn to come. Good evening to one of my friends, Mr. Mark Benshop.
Good evening. How are you?
Ooh, I can't remember whether I introduced you to Mr. Kissoon or you introduced me to Mr. Kissoon. All I know is that we were running mates from around 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. We used to be on the road protesting, or you get locked up. I didn't get locked up because I did in America at the time. But when I come home, I join you all, and we were political friends. We were protesting together, and so on. Freddie was in love with Black people. Oh my! I remember I came in one night, and the next day you all picked me up and carried me across the river that shot a little boy at Wales. And we were the ones who brought that story. We brought those people to Georgetown to protest. I remember all those things. That was 2010. I remember Linden. We were some of the first people to lend solidarity to those people up there. You've heard, and I don't know if you've heard me. I spoke with you earlier. And after I spoke with you, I checked one of my most reliable sources at Kaito, and they confirmed that Freddie Kissoon column has been pulled permanently. I didn't ask why, because I get manners. I didn't ask why. But Benshop, what do you make of this Freddie Kissoon column being pulled?
Thanks for having me this afternoon. At this time, I'm more concerned about the discrimination throughout the country, the racial discrimination, the fact that this installed regime continues to trample on the rights of almost every citizen in Guyana, but mainly citizens of African descent. It is sad what's happening in the country. And sometimes or most times it pains my heart that people have to suffer in what is supposed to be an oil-rich country. Um, and so my heart pains. And that's what's uppermost in my mind about those sort of injustices that we see every single day. Massive corruption, drug lords parading themselves as legitimate businessmen. Some of them are in the private sector commission. Some of them are parading around with so-called powerful politicians, some gun smugglers, some gold smugglers as well. Some of them who are wanted by certain law enforcement agencies in the United States of America. These are things that bother me. Execution style killings have returned to the country. People burning tires over some sort of inconsequential issues and situation. People of questionable background and character are deemed, according to this installed regime, as community leaders and all these different things. Dr. Hines, all those things are on my mind. But that's not the question you asked me. I said all of those things so that I can get around to answering your question about the individual who now happens to be a former columnist. Now, I'm not going to sit here and laugh over a situation, but sometimes, things happen for a reason. People oftentimes like to say about karma. Yep, sorry about that. Karma and these sort of things. With the individual who is now a former columnist, I'm not too bothered about, what has happened. He has been fired, under what circumstances, and so forth. Because those sort of things should never happen to people. And I say that with a straight face. It should really never happen to people. It happened to Freddie Kissoon, and a lot of people are not surprised that it has happened. People are asking why it took so long to happen. Again, I'm not going to be like the individual who is a former columnist now, to laugh at people when they're fired, as what he did to you and Lincoln Lewis and these people. He just laughs. He laughs. And he uses his column space not to talk about things that could help to develop the country, race relations, and all these things. It was always used for a personal agenda, a personal weapon to attack people that he disagrees with, and all these different things. And so were I in Guyana, I would have been the first one to jump to Freddie Kissoon's rescue. And I'm being honest with you. Had I been there, yeah, thank you so much. And now my daughter brought this pot with some food inside. And if Freddie Kissoon was here next to me, I would have been sharing it, because I know as of by this weekend, his pot may be empty. Because it's not easy to be with being fired, being without a job, and these different things. Now, the first time Freddie Kissoon was actually fired, when I was in Guyana, I was actually, and I don't want to brag that I was one of the first ones to jump to his rescue. 9:30, and this was many, many years ago. 9:30 in the night, I left my home. I took Freddie Kissoon to Nigel Yu's office. He had not so long ago finished abusing out Nigel Hughes in his column, cussing out Nigel, all manner of things. But a lot of people don't know this. After I took Freddie Kissoon, he came to my home 9:30 in the night. I drove over to Nigel Hughes' office. We drove all the way to Kaiser News to meet with Glenn Lal when Freddie was first fired. We pleaded with Glenn Lal to give Freddie Kissoon his job back, give him his job back, because Freddie was literally in tears. Freddie was crying. He came by my house. He was crying. And again, I'm not laughing at the situation. Nobody wants to lose their job. People have bills to pay. And Freddie Kissoon realized that he was boxed in a corner when Glenn Lal first fired him. He was crying. And so I felt sorry for him. We drove all the way to Nigel Yu's office, the very man, the very lawyer that he cussed out in his column, abused out, disrespected. We drove to Glenn Lal's office at Kaiser News and pleaded with Glenn Lal, please give Freddie Kissoon his job back. Please give Freddie Kissoon his job back. I believe Adam Harris was in that meeting as well. Freddie Kissoon got his job back because there were those of us who stepped in, who pleaded with Glenn Lal to give him his job back. I don't think, ask me if I will do that now. No, I'm not going to do that now. Freddie's pretty comfortable. I'm sure he's being handsomely paid. Maybe not as a columnist, but I don't know. Maybe he's just being paid. Maybe by the regime. I don't know. People are saying that, but I don't know whether he's being paid by the regime to write these sort of things that he's writing that is totally not the Freddie Kissoon that we know. So I don't know whether he's going to be crying over not being able to work at Kaiser News anymore, not being able to write filth about people any longer via the Kaiser News column. So having said all of that, I just, when I saw that he was fired, it brought back memories when he was first fired. And those of us, a few of us who ensured that he got his job back, years later, he decided now that he's going to stab us in the back. He's going to use the very column to go after us, to attempt to destroy us. But Freddie Kissoon doesn't have what it takes to destroy us. He doesn't. And so I say all of this to say that people must not burn the bridge that they cross. They must be respectful. Even though we might disagree politically or maybe otherwise, there are ways to be respectful. Look at how he has reduced you. He called you all sorts of names, I believe, Black Pudding Man, and all these. If you're a doctor, you teach at a university. You are a doctor. You're the holder of a PhD, something Freddie Kissoon years couldn't get done, years couldn't achieve, but yet he felt comfortable. Because he disagrees with you politically now, he's felt comfortable to call you Black Pudding Man and all manner of things. But like you've said earlier, and there's this popular saying, God doesn't sleep at all. And this is not glorifying or laughing that he has been fired, but God surely doesn't sleep. He has burnt too many bridges.
Something with that, Shop, because on the first time I pulled the column there on Sunday, Monday morning in Monday's edition, Guyana Times and Chronicle, I read his column. So I am sure
he's going to be either writing for, quite possibly, he's going to be over at Guyana Times. That's it.
Yes.
He may not be over at Chronicle, but Jagdier's friend, Dr. Bobby Ramru, is going to pull Freddie Kissoon over to him and offer him 1.5 times more than what Kaiser News was paying Freddie Kissoon all those years. And mind you, when we were protesting, we weren't getting a salary. Freddie was getting 2 salaries that we are aware of. He was getting over probably close to $300,000 a month from Kaiser News, plus he was getting his salary at the University of Guyana. But when we go out to eat a little food, guess who never has any money? I mean, I'm not saying this to ridicule the man, but it's reality. Quietly, we joke about it. Privately, we joke about it. And even once we asked Freddie, how come you don't even pay for nothing, man? What's going on here? You're the only one that's working. Anyways, I said that with a little bit of humor. But he is going to be with Guyana Times, or the Chronicle may just get him there as a guest columnist, and they're going to pay him a heck of a lot of money, taxpayers' monies. I don't know if he's going to pay tax out of that, because Freddie loves to being paid under the books, so to speak. So that's another story for another time. Maybe we can talk about that.
Let's go over to this Letitia Wright story. Before you came on, the media have reported that yesterday he was late for our appointment at UG. He was late for our appointment with the mayor, and she did not show up for an appointment with Ipadaji, but an unscheduled meeting with the president took place, and she spent over 3 hours, president. And I have come to the conclusion that it's political spite and bad-mindedness and manipulation of that young lady by the president of Guyana. Am I out of place to come to that conclusion based on what you've heard?
The installed individual there, Irfan Ali, is not too bright to manipulate anybody like a Letitia Wright. If he thinks that he's manipulating that brilliant young lady, well, then something is definitely wrong with Irfan Ali. He's not. He's certainly not manipulating her. Like I said, he doesn't have the ability, the intellectual capabilities to do something like that. So go ahead. I'm hard. I'm not hearing you, sir.
I meant to say manipulate her schedule, not her. Manipulate her schedule so that she doesn't get to meet with Black people who were in their hundreds at City Hall and Black people who were at the party, including children, to meet with her. Manipulating her schedule, not her.
Yeah. Again, people do have busy, and this is not thinking. I like her. I was listening to a speech, and she's very, very, the closeness with her family, the closeness with the superior being, her God, and she spoke about how she really got some of these roles, and it was very touching. And she's very eloquent, 10 times better than a Irfan Ali or a Jack Deere put together. She understands her purpose. She knows what she's doing. I suppose she has some good handlers around her. And so missing a schedule with Ipadaji or being late or so, I hope that she'll be able to make it up. I don't want to read much into it other than the fact that that when you're dealing with individuals such as Irfan Ali and Jack Deo and the other goons within the PPP, these things are to be expected. They're very low-minded, and probably, some people would say low class. And so that's how, individuals think of that sort of, with that sort of mentality. That's how they think. They don't look at the bigger picture. And so they think that they're manipulating her. They think that they're manipulating her schedule. And they think that the little photo ops and the little things that that is being done on behalf of taxpayers of the country, because it's taxpayers' monies, spending for her security or even probably to drive her around and so forth. I'm just assuming. It is not an Irfan Ali or a Jaggi or these guys. It's taxpayers. We, the taxpayers, are doing these things to someone and for someone that we really appreciate and we really respect. And that is what it's about. So it's kind of sad that she didn't, get to meet with the folks at the Ipadaji, and that she was late for the mayor and so forth. And she wasted 3 hours, and this is not to disrespect her. 3 hours with a goon who doesn't care about people who look like her, who have been going into communities to destroy communities that have a lot of people who look like her, and destroying the communities politically, socially, in so many ways and forms. And we can touch on that as to how drugs and guns are being introduced into mainly African communities to destroy those communities. We can't hear you, Dr. Hines. We can't hear you. Can't hear you. Yeah, we couldn't hear you. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing me, but we couldn't hear.
I'm hearing you, Mark.
Yeah,
I'm hearing you.
You're hearing, Lincoln, are you hearing me?
yeah, we
I'm
heard
now
you.
hearing you.
Yeah.
This is the first time I
Okay.
heard you for the night.
For the night. Lincoln, our erstwhile friend, I have confirmed this afternoon that the Freddie Kissoon column was pulled from the Kaito News permanently. And you may remember when your column, my column, was pulled from the Kaito News, Freddie said he was consulted and he agreed with pulling our column. Against that background, any thoughts on this news about pulling Freddie column? He was a countryman. And before you came on, I told my audience, big ask him, where your mouth so long? He said, wait, your turn to come. Over to you.
First thing, the first time when he stopped writing, when he had his problem in 2012, it was Ben Scott who was behind the scenes. You and Ben Scott talking to the people to get him back on the paper. And when they pay incentive or some bonus, he was so eager to know if he get any. So he asked Ben Scott to call them to find out. So Ben Scott hope that you're going to seek to find a job for him. Another one beside the one that he get at Chronicle now. He's going to be at Chronicle. That's the next place he's going, right? Then you got to understand the man.
Well,
and I'll tell you, David.
Mashramani's around the corner. I love to dance masquerade. I could be drums. Freddie, we could dress up and stand up right by Can Street car and collect little things from them cars and things. I mean, there are different ways in making money. I'm not gonna knock him. He's been fired. He's not the first. But Freddie has ways he can make money. He can probably join the guys them around the cathedral and something, man. Something can happen.
Yeah. I want to tell you this, Mark. This man will go to Chronicle. That's where the man will go.
He's going to Guyana Times.
Right? Well, some one of them he's going to go to. He's going to end up that way. Right?
He's going. And, I mean,
well, let me tell you something. It was only time that Glenn Lyle would have had to pull him. Because I believe that he was on a tirade to deal with people who look like me. He believes that people like us should not have a voice out there.
I'm hearing everybody.
The holes that he has dug for us is the same holes that he fall in. So if he had dug one for me, one for you, and one for David, you guess how far down he gone. Okay? He gone very deep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Freddie.
You baptized me, Mark. Funny, I can't seem to get the camera up. I don't know what's happening.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when you still use BlackBerry phone.
It is not a phone. Anyhow, I was here when you were talking about Freddie. Now we keep making this mistake that Freddie has been fired. Freddie was a columnist. He was not employed by Kaichor, so all they did was pull his column. When I was there, Freddie was one of the fellas who used to write any and everything. And when I pulled him up or I attempted to drop the column, Glenn used to side with him. And at one stage, I asked him if it had to do with my political affiliation. Freddie, as Mark rightly said, loves money. He's going to lose that little stipend he's been getting from Kaichor. And he's making it an issue. I heard, I don't listen to the program, that he was with Critic this morning, advising people not to buy Kaichor and telling them that he was the one who was carrying Kaichor. Well, that's a joke. Freddie wrote so many things. Freddie said Waddle was buried in the Gulf at the back of Buxton when the poor boy was cremated. When we challenged him and I apologized to Bonita, he tried to get angry. But Freddie can't beat me, so I wasn't worried. I shouted him down. Freddie got a thing about him. His voice and his views are the only things on the planet. So Glenlal pulling the column, you said he's going to Chronicle. Chronicle will carry his column. You're right. Guyana Times will carry his column. You're right. They did carry one the other day because he was saying the right things. He was cussing Guyana. He was cussing the coalition. He was cussing everybody. And the PPP was happy with that. Well, they can continue to be happy with Freddie because the circulation of the Chronicle and Guyana Times is so low. I don't know who's going to see it. We don't know who's going to see it. Kaichor News gave him the widest voice. And I'm sorry Glenlal took so long. Yes, Mark, you were right. You did beg for him with Nigel. Lincoln, all of you tried with him. We all tried with him. And Freddie likes to cry. I remember when the late Khurshid Sattar said, I'm going after Freddie for property tax. Freddie found where I live and get me to talk to Khurshid Sattar to back off. And Khurshid did. And that was the happiest thing for him. And he turned around and cost me. So I wouldn't make Freddie an issue. Freddie is irrelevant. Very irrelevant. As a matter of fact, we're giving him more publicity than he would have ever had in his whole life. The fact that Glenn pulled the column, so be it. Let him stay where he is. Letitia Wright,
Adam.
yes. Aye.
Yes.
Adam, this man was
Talk to me.
getting paid. He was getting paid at Kaichor.
Go ahead, Link.
Yes, Glenn was giving him about 240 or 260,000.
But the man writing a response to me that he don't get paid.
Well, Freddie is a congenital liar. I know till he used to collect bonus and tell him I say. And he can try to sue me. Let's deal with the case. Freddie was paid. Glenn, the books are there. Just walk into Kaichor and Glenn will show you. When Glenn attempted to pay him by check, he said no. Check leave paper trail. Give me cash. That was Freddie. Freddie used to use his column to beg. He wanted 4 tires for his car. He write that up in the column. Glenn turned and said, Freddie, this column is not for that. A whole lot of things Freddie did. Freddie made us go to cover a story. The people in the squatting area across the line from him, he claimed how they were doing this. When we went, nothing of the sort. Freddie is mentally ill. And the sooner we realize that, the better.
The voice there, Maris, former editor at Kaichor News, and so speaking from a position of intimate knowledge. Adam, you were about to say, give us your views on the Letitia Wright story, whereby she arrived late for appointments because of this unscheduled visit with the president. She didn't turn up for the G. Tell us what you know.
What I can tell you, Simona Brooms knows her father. The meeting with Ipadaji was arranged for 3:30 yesterday afternoon. When the girl came, because she left here at 8, she was enamored with Guyana, everything Guyanese. I didn't know that she was such a devout Christian. But she wanted to be grounded with Guyanese. I saw a photograph of her posing with the opposition members of parliament, and I said, well, she ain't segregating herself. The Itpadaji thing, she went to UG, she got the doctorate, the honorary doctorate, and then she went to City Hall. They were hoping to keep her away from the mayor because this government, and those of us old enough, Lincoln, you gonna know, David, you gonna know, Mark might remember, he's a very young chap. Whenever there was a state visit, one of the first things that happened was that the mayor was integral. And then they had a ceremony at Promenade Gardens.
Yes, I
And people
remember
got,
that well.
exactly, and people got an official welcome. Since then, we've had state visits. Never once was the mayor involved because this administration wants nothing to do with anyone who criticizes it. But you see, I'm in a peculiar position. I ain't begging them for nothing. They can't give me nothing, and I ain't want nothing. So I can talk. Now, when and I saw the little thing with the mayor giving her the clip. I heard tonight that the president had an unscheduled meeting with her. That meeting lasted for in excess of 3 hours because the people knew that she had other appointments planned. And some of the people she would have met during those appointments weren't people the government were keen to have her meet. She got to City Hall eventually. And then I heard the president had a dinner for her last night. That was horridly planned. And as Aubrey Norton said, every time the PNC plans something, like it planned a meeting with the Tushau, the government stepped in and tell the Tushau, sorry, I got something with y'all. The government, at one time, Irfan Ali said, who, them people? We should forget those people talking about the opposition. That's his view. That is the one Guyana view that this man had. And one Guyana is one Guyana for me, as I say. It ain't involved nothing else. So when Letitia didn't turn up, the children were disappointed. They had reporters who wanted to write a scathing report. And I tell them, no, this was outside the child's control. She had no control over that. We will have to deal with the Irfan Ali administration and its selfish and vindictive attitude. You don't come and tell me that I am for all the people and you ostracize people. You have a group called Men on Mission or something of the sort like that. The budget gives them $500 million. In Parliament, when they asked about it, well, you know, it has reputable people, the police commissioner, the head of the army, and that kind of thing. Not a structured organization, not structured at all. Itpadaji, a structured organization that accounted for every cent it got. You go after them. The Chief Justice says, my God, this is a national disgrace. And I don't understand why she doesn't want to rule on this matter, choosing instead to say it should go to mediation. Mediation could last for 400 years.
Voice there of Adam Harris. Lincoln, you can come in on the Letitia Wright issue. I know you've been following it. What are your thoughts? Thank you, Adam, for giving us the kind of insiders, journalists take on it. That information is very, very important. Take your thoughts.
Let me tell you what I've seen. I've seen the itinerary for Letitia Wright. It had 2 items for yesterday, the original itinerary. It was the question of our visiting some housing development. and the other one was a dinner last night with the president. I believe that the one the UG did was to really look at the itinerary and set there and seek to fit their program into yesterday. And the same for Ipalaji and the mayor. Yesterday was what you call the launching of African
Black History Month. Yes.
So it was a good time for Ipalaji to do something. This government has decided in all form that they will not entertain anything that has any input from the opposition. They do it in the National Assembly every time they meet, and they have done it now. This government, let me tell you something about it. This government is so biased. This government, even when they get an opportunity to be inclusive, they can't be inclusive, they can't see it. Letitia Wright belongs to the Guyanese people. But the opposition and the supporters, as far as they're concerned, are not Guyanese, it's only them. They can't see beyond discriminating. And the greatest strength of these guys is that they have no bloody shame. That's our problem. No shame. I am glad that Adam made the point that, look, and which I subscribe to. I don't believe that the attack must be on Letitia James. Right, Letitia led, right? The attack must be on the government for what they're doing. What they are doing, they are using the funds. They are using the funds of the state. They are using the privilege of the state to discriminate against members of the state. No government ought to be involved in this in activities of that nature. And we need to tell them. And we need to come out with a chorus and let them understand. Let me tell you what their plan, you know. They can only see it one way. They see to bring Letitia Wright here. They see it as an opportunity to make political mileage. They will say, we are concerned about her. We are her. But people, the other people who look like her, you know what they will do? They will discriminate against them. They only see for one purpose, either to boost tourism or to boost their political image outside there. There's so many attacks on them based on how they are treating African people in this country. They are using her now to clean their image, to say we are not racist, we are not discriminatory, we are look Letitia Wright, we brought her here because we didn't see race. That's how they behave.
The voice there of Lincoln Lewis weighing in on the issue of the government manipulating the schedule of Letitia Wright to prevent her from meeting African Guyanese working people. And I want to make it very clear that this program is in solidarity with Miss Wright. We see her as a hero, as an example for African Guyanese and Black people all over the world. And the developments yesterday, we do not in any way blame her. We do not in any way blame her. As the panel is saying here tonight, we are aiming our anger and our disgust at this low-life government is prepared to do anything anything possible to survive. But we have our work to do. We are doing our work. I told you all at the top of the program that we're going to have some good political fun here tonight. And when I talk about fun, I can be in the village and in the towns. And men and women say, I'm making fun. I'm making fun. That kind of fun. That's not fun. We're not playing here. And gentlemen, let us weigh in on what happened at Buxton yesterday. Let's weigh in at what happened in Buxton yesterday. Was the unrest, as Tableaux call it, was it initiated by Buxtonians? And we saw the Tableaux said that the police said that they were in touch with leaders in Buxton to bring the unrest under control. They didn't say who leaders. But I know something about Buxton. I know they got all kind of leaders in Buxton. They got religious leader, they got political leader, they got sports leader, they got cultural leaders. I want to know which category of leaders police was in touch with to stop the protest. And since when? Police go into communities, black communities, contact their leaders to help stop protests. I start with you, Adam, because as a journalist, you're on the ground. What have you heard?
Well, the first thing is the shooting. Was there need to shoot? You claim you had an intelligence-led operation. This man is driving. You're following him. He turns into Buxton. He tries to escape. He drives into a trench. You corner him. But why shoot while he's attempting to escape? Do you always do that? Or is it because it was Buxton? Now I'm hearing a couple of other things. I hear that the man is linked to somebody who is affiliated to the PPP. I don't know. I can't give him out liberty.
Yes.
And they tried to say that the Buxtonians tried to pull the man out. The people who tried perhaps to take him away were Buxtonians, but not of the conventional Buxton. They were said to be people with vested interest. Now, they say one rotten apple spoiled the whole barrel. If a few people got their own thing and they tried to take the man away, and you like to shoot, why didn't you shoot? There was no gunfire then, but you shoot up. You scare people because bullets hit people in their house hit their houses and all of that. You claim no one was injured. The people get angry. They block the road. I saw the commander talking with some of the protesters on the road. There was no gunfire. They cleared the highway eventually. They cleared the railway embankment eventually. There was no gunfire. So the question remains, why shoot when you were trying to apprehend the man? Was it necessary? I saw reports that they were shooting in the air. I learned a long time ago what goes up comes down. But some of the people who claim that their houses were hit, they weren't hit by bullet coming down. Bullet coming down won't hit the wall like that. So something, either it was a bad operation or it was a wicked operation designed to provoke unrest. On whose behalf? Who would welcome unrest in this country now? Certainly not me. So my take is that it was an operation that could have sparked an unrest. Thank God the unrest didn't happen. And everybody heard the fellow was remanded to prison today.
I am on 9 show. I'm on 9 show.
So, sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh.
Yes, you go ahead, Adam. Are you finished? If you're finished, Adam, let's bring in Lincoln. Let's bring in Lincoln. Lincoln Lewis, you pass Buxton every day because you live up the side and so on. What are you hearing about what happened there yesterday?
I believe that what I've picked up is that, similar to what Adam is saying, that look here, these guys went in and they trailing somebody. They said some suspect, and even when they corner the suspect, they intend to use guns, use bullets on the people, on the guys. What came out from that is that they shot hit buildings and so on, and people reacted. Well, let me tell you what interests me about this thing. Having seen what happened in the 2000, early 2000, 99, 2000, and so on, with the question of how we find bodies. Let me tell you what. My understanding, as they are saying, they spoke with leaders. This is a government, that always involve dealing with shady characters. They're always involved in it. What happened yesterday is that they could not have forced their way through. So they look for somebody. I don't know who is it that they contacted, and the person went and they talked with the guys and said, okay, everything is going to be all right. You guys retreat and what have you. Let me tell you, David, mark my word. The PPP never want to be humiliated. What they see yesterday, they see somebody on the ground there who is in charge. And this thing went out of control. We are burnt on the road. They're going to come to match that person. And when I say match, they will come in their own way to deem somebody that they get criminal intent or what have you, and they'll start killing people again. I remember it was Roysdale Ford who spoke in the National Assembly, and he talked about the killings that are returning. This year, I am seeing it as a continuation of that, of what he referred to in the National Assembly. We have to be careful, and David, you come from Buxton. I think I give leadership, because them people, this will come back. The PPP never like to be humiliated. They'll come back to take revenge on those young men. Not only the young men, but those who put themselves out as leaders. Let me tell you what. As a leader, regardless of where you are, if you call the dogs off,
you own the dogs. If you call the dogs off, you own the dogs. And what we are hearing is that somebody called the dogs off yesterday. It meant that somebody owned those dogs, and that the police exercised restraint. It meant that those dogs got connection. That is the point. Mark Bishop, what's your take on what happened there at Buxton? Good evening, everyone. Yes, it's happening here in Politics 101 tonight. And before Mark comes on, tomorrow night, debut, Black Matters, the Friday night edition of Politics 101, starting tomorrow night. Black Matters. That program, every Friday night from now on, we're going to be talking about Black people's story. Strictly Black. Black matters. We're going to be talking about Black matters. We're going to be making the point that Black people matter. Tomorrow night, debut, same time, Politics 101, special program, Black Matters.
Yeah. I don't know why Lincoln and Adam, and to some extent yourself, keep referring to a criminal enterprise, a racist, a corrupt enterprise as a government. We do not have a government in Guyana. We must remember that these folks were installed. They're sitting there, they're squatting, they're illegal. They're a corrupt entity. Look at what they do. It's not about a Guyana for them. They're not patriots. They're corrupt at every level. So I take umbrage at people who describe them as government. There's no government. All of our oil monies, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars going into their friends and cronies and concubines and those who they worship pockets. And then when Irfan Ali and the likes go out there and they sprinkle little crumbs in communities, repair a old lady house, repair some girl house out in Linden and give she some 1 bedroom for 10 of them live inside. Go to Kanji and promise to repair some old man house who worked at the sugar estate for all those years. He feels as though the optics is good and that people are going to see him as caring and so forth and so on. I'll say this to you guys, the coalition did 20 times better and in a more dignified and sophisticated way than this pigeon wing guy, Irfan Ali, is doing right now. So it's not a government. I just want to set the record straight with that. It's an illegal regime. They still have 2 elections petitions that are pending, that we hardly hear anything about these elections petitions that they are attempting to cover up. We are no longer hearing anything about produce your SOPs. Whatever happened to the SOPs that they and their supporters? I noticed some trench crappos in your comment section. They don't listen. They just they're wild oats, like these trench crappos are just jumping the trench, just a bourgeon. They don't think they jump anywhere. That's how some of them are. And so they're not going to like this. But the PPP is a installed, unelected regime that is corrupting the country at every level. Now, you spoke about the situation there in Buxton and some so-called unrest and these manner of things. I'm big on human rights. I'm big on standing up and speaking out against violations of rights of citizens. And no sort of rights should be, violations of people's rights should be condoned. But I like to look at this in a holistic manner. If, according to the police, they're correct, the police they set up a roadblock. All of us have come into contact with police roadblocks and so forth. For suspicious reasons, people drive away from roadblocks and they do all manner of things because they feel they're bad. They feel they can run the country. They can do anything they want to do. A police pull them over, they cost the police the driveway, and now the police is part and parcel of what is happening in the country with individuals who, who might be hustling, whether cocaine or whatever. The police, they are responsible for what is happening because they condone these sort of things. Some of these policemen are being paid by these guys who are hustling drugs. Now, I'm not saying I don't know the whole situation, whether this guy's a drug dealer or whatever, but they caught him with drugs. Allegedly, they caught him with drugs. And people who know that this whole situation here stemmed from a flex the muscle. You arrest one of me, we're going to show you guys that you got to listen to we because we're going to flex we muscle. They're what you call mini drug lords, trying to flex their muscles. This is not like a genuine unrest of a situation that warrant that sort of attention. It is more, and the PPP is responsible for it because the PPP, they're going into these communities They're attempting to create so-called leaders who have no respect and believe that they can demand respect by walking around with guns, big guns. Some communities, the PPP got their supporters selling all sort of drugs and cocaine, and they're exporting it and all these sort of things. These are the people that the PPP love. And so this whole situation, going back to Buxton now, what happened there yesterday, I mean, it is unfortunate that some innocent people got their homes shattered with bullets. People could have died. It is uncalled for. That sort of thing. We are innocent people, by the way, innocent people. Now, this whole war between them and the police now, it could intensify. But the police were able to go into Buxton, quote unquote, negotiate with some so-called leaders because the police know what they were doing. Some of them are in the pocket of hustlers. And look at what we're looking at on the screen. It's an uncalled, it is an uncalled so-called unrest to gain negative attention, because that's what it's going. You know what this is going to gain? The police going to get in more trouble, and those who orchestrated this, the so-called community leaders and these things, they will just go more on law enforcement radar. If they can be on the law enforcement radar in Guyana, definitely they will be probably more up there on the radar of law enforcement agencies outside of Guyana. That's just one quick point with regards to that. Now, the police and people got to pay careful attention to what the police have been doing recently. They are specifically targeting mainly persons of African descent who are alleged to be in the drug business. They're not going anywhere else. Do you think they would have done this to a drug lord that is in bed with them? And they have many drug lords. They know who those drug lords are. Do you think they would have gone into Prasad Nagar or chased after a well-known drug lord that probably looked like Irfan Ali them, and that is connected maybe to the higher, not low-level flat-foot hustlers I'm talking about. High up in the PPP, they are connected. Some of them are connected to the private sector commission and all these different things. Do you think they would have treated somebody like that? No. Or a guy, black guy who might be connected to them and feel as though they are all powerful and they could do this. And it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that the PPP has no respect for them. And very soon things could get out of hand, because it is what it is. The PPP believe in using them. And if they think that some of them get a little gun, they get a little gun license, and they could target this and they target that, the PPP is just using them. Collateral damage. That's all I have to say. But I just wish that people could use the energy to confront this illegal regime that we have. Not to confront a so-called confrontation to return somebody. Come on.
Mark Bench up there giving his take on what occurred in Buxton. It's much more complex than we think it is. Adam? Is Adam Harris still with us? We're not sure that.
I'm here.
Yes. Adam, any burning issue you want to comment on before we go?
I would like to talk about the fact that we have this monster budget and people, the working people, have nothing. I know children are going to school hungry. I know that. Toward the end of last term, I organized and I got some meals to those children for 2 weeks, and then school closed. I'm trying to do the same again. When children go to school hungry, they can't concentrate. And then in this day and age, the little boys are hungry, and then they sit down and say, you gotta go out on the road and get it. They ain't going out there and panhandle. They ain't going in beg. Little girls hungry, they would use what God gave them. They ain't got time to study about school. And I have said before, it seems as though the government wants to reduce young black boys to the level of criminals and young black girls as prostitutes. I'm not happy. I live in the community with them. I see them. I try to help where I could. The government has the resources to do it, and it isn't doing it. I read about a woman. As a matter of fact, this was said in Parliament. A woman got a temporary job paying $40,000 a month. And she applied for poor law, we used to be poor law board, what do you call it? Public assistance. And they told her, sorry, you can't get, you walk in. So paying a woman $40,000 a month is considered a job. So she doesn't qualify for any more relief in this country. Our poverty level is ridiculously high, over 40% at a time when we're supposed to be the fastest growing economy. The economy is growing fast. We can end up with fancy roads, fancy bridges, and all manner of things. And a host of hungry people, people who will eventually decide enough is enough.
Adam Harris saying it there as he sees it. We're going to end up in a state where eventually people will say enough is enough. But Marley said, an hungry mob is an angry mob. Yes, we are expanding, as you noticed. Open World, I have a couple of podcasts on the weekend. Open World podcasts on Sunday nights, and on Saturday night we're going to have a podcast for you cricket people. Of course, you know, we're taking a beating. We're playing Zimbabwe starting, I think, tonight or tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. So I am one of those people like Adam. I don't know, Mark, whether you taking the beating, you know, you're still with the team. We getting beat up, but through West Indians, we still with the team. You see, I don't know the thing well tomorrow night. But I'll be starting this cricket podcast, which is going to be aired on Saturday nights, and on Sunday, an open word podcast where I get to sit down with people, take somebody like a Hamilton Green, who comes on to this program, but who has been around politics since in the 50s. What I do in the podcast is get people like Ami and others, sit down with them in a relaxed way and talk to them about their career, what they've learned, mistakes they may have made, their ups and their downs, and then bring it to you. So on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we're going to keep this format where we engage. And on Friday, of course, we have the Black Matters. But on the weekend, we're going to do the podcast style, where we go beneath the surface. So we're expanding. And with your help, we are going to make it. This is the future. Social media is the future. The conventional media has to realize this. And I am a lover of the newspaper. I am a lover of the radio. I'm a lover of the conventional TV. But the world around us is moving at a quick pace, and we have got to adopt. I'm not a journalist. I am a public scholar. I'm a political activist. So I am not doing journalism. I am doing public scholarship and public activism. Mark Bishop, closing thoughts.
Yeah, Dr. Hines, again, thank you for having me. Just one quick advice. You're correct. The social media is the way forward. There are many people that I've observed in your, a few of them in your comment section. You've got to be very careful with them. A lot of them, most of them are paid bloggers. Some of them are Kwame and his likes and his people and so forth with these fictitious names. What I usually do, we don't tolerate them over on our platform. They're basically there. It's not freedom of speech. It's not democracy, because that's what they usually cry for. They're distraction. They come with one intention, to distract from the message. And if we continue to tolerate them and their ignorance, because if you look, it's a bunch of ignorance, nothing good, nothing that makes sense. Have your operator just ensure that you grab the trench, grapples them, and you dash them back in the trench forever. Don't let them come out. They're distracting this whole program. That's just an advice to you. Kick them out. Yeah, let them go back in the trench where they belong. Right?
My bench up there.
One of the things, though, in closing, we got to stop identifying these corrupt people in the PPP as a government. They're not. This is not a government. This is an installed corrupt regime. That is what they are. They are about to fleece the nation, fleece taxpayers, whether the taxpayers from Port Morant, whether they're from Linden or wherever. That is what they're doing. They're thieving the people's money. We are no longer hearing about an elections petition. Of course, the regime doesn't want that. The corrupt regime doesn't want that. But we're not even hearing it from the opposition. They're not making noise about that. It is as though they themselves have forgotten about the elections petition. We have been hearing from the PPP side, oh, SOPs, SOPs. We're no longer hearing about SOPs, because the truth of the matter is that the PPP's SOPs are the corrupt SOPs. And the reason why they're afraid of the elections petitions, mind you, Anil and these boys, they keep challenging it. Why would you challenge something if you have something to, obviously they have something to hide. And if they feel that the coalition rigged the elections, then they shouldn't stop the elections petitions from being heard. It's pretty obvious by now. While they're doing this, we have people who have been charged, unjustly charged, by these corrupt elements in the PPP regime. We have a Roxanne Myers, we have Trevor Ben, we have scores of people who have been charged. They're before the court over 2 years now, and nothing is being done about it. No justice at all for those individuals who are now facing trumped up charges by this corrupt, racist regime, who are using certain persons of African descent as basically a PR stunt. We saw what they did with that actress, Letitia Wright. It is for optics. It is a PR stunt. If you ask Irfan and these guys, have you watched the movie The Black Panther? Do you know what that movie signifies? You know, and then when Letitia leaves the country, they've gone right back into communities that have more people looking like Letitia Wright. They have no respect for those sort of people. They bulldoze their homes, they take away their land, and all manner of things. They just treat people like Letitia Wright as worse than third-class citizens in that country. And we are basically, we're not prioritizing ourselves in terms of the struggle against this corrupt PPP regime. Every day there's a different issue. And they're getting us with that because they feel if they can distract us with this, distract us with that, and while they're thieving and they're thieving and they're thieving and they're discriminating against our people, soon they may go up the Linden Suicide Highway and take away people's lands, bulldoze people's stuff. People who've been there for 25, 30 years. Look at what they did to Mocha. Look at what they did to some people out in Linden. And then they go out in these communities pretending like they love the people. The PPP regime under Irfan Ali doesn't love you guys. They're more connected to drug lords, money launderers, gold smugglers. We know who they are. And hopefully soon, the U.S. will send that expedition list. Maybe Anil has that expedition list, but he's not using it. But they're going into other areas and go after those small fish kind of hustlers, cocaine dealers, and those who deal with hundreds of pounds of marijuana and so forth. They're going after one kind of people, whereas the big people, the big drug lords, look like Irfan Ali them. They associate with Irfan Ali them. They give hundreds of millions of dollars to the PPP, and so the PPP will not touch them unless Uncle Sam steps in and wring the hands of the PPP regime to give up those corrupt, those criminals who are compositing as contractors, philanthropists, and all these things. Grab them as quickly as possible. A U.S. jail or U.S. jails are awaiting them. And when they come, we will see quickly they will fill themselves out, identify themselves as blacks. That's all I need to know.
Thank you very much, Mark. Adam, your closing thoughts?
My friend, I'm sorry there isn't a video here tonight. And all I can say is that I'm disappointed that there is no dialogue. They criticized Burnham, but for all the talk, Burnham had dialogue with the opposition. At every chance he got, he invited the opposition to be there. Desmond Hoyt was the same thing, and you can refuse, it's all right, but you are invited. That isn't happening anymore. I don't know the example we're setting for those coming behind. I don't know if we are saying to people, look, you as boss, to hell with anyone else. I don't know if that's the message we want to get across in this country. I just wish to God that we can have a situation where we can talk to one another. Ganesh Mahipal said, though, talking again, nothing, because the government always says, you have your say, but I will have my way. So I don't know where we're going. You know, I looked at this country. The US, the UK, now looking for nurses and teachers. They clean up Guyana. They ain't coming here. They're in Trinidad and Jamaica. I was embarrassed to see that Guyana has the largest diaspora population in the world. Look at our population. And we got more people outside than anybody else. Why? At one time, they used to say, well, the people gone because they run from Burnham. Who they running from now? I look at some young nurses. They're leaving. They got a little girl from West Damara Region Hospital. She probably left by now. Got an offer and smiled. And she's out of it. You go to the hospital, pretty soon you carry somebody to the hospital, walk with your family because they got to clear the persons. And all the hospital gonna be doing is giving you the medication. In Guyana, an oil-rich country with the fastest growing economy, that is happening. You talk about training 1,000 nurses. You closed down the Charles Roses School of Nursing that was training nurses. But you're training 1,000. Leslie Ramsamy had said that a couple of years ago. Who training them? Where the trainers coming from? You got any? So what we doing is talking. And one last thing. If you read the newspapers and the thing, you will see government to do this, government to complete road. This will happen. That will happen. Everything is futuristic. You know, when I was at Kaichor, I used to say, hey, when it happened, then we carry in the story. Don't bring nothing about the future. But that's the norm now. And I see the newspaper running with all these futuristic stories. Lord knows.
Lord knows. Lord knows. Indeed, indeed, in times like this, we always tend to call, Lord, put a hand, put a hand. But at the end of the day, you know, God help those who help themselves. We thank you all so much for coming out tonight. In large numbers, it's one of our largest attendance tonight. You know, over 2,000 people live. Mark Benshop, Adam Harris, Lincoln Lewis, over 2,000 view, 2,100 of you. And that's what I am seeing. I understand over on Mark Benshop channel, there is another song there. I want to thank you all, because without you all, this thing ain't working. And we ain't hiding what we're doing here, you know. We mobilizing. We mobilizing. This is mobilization. We mobilizing, because if we don't mobilize, as Adam said, he don't know what would happen. We love our country. We love Guyana, and that is why we are mobilizing, so that we can make Guyana the place that our ancestors dreamt of when they walked through the plantation. And those who came afterwards, when indentureship was over in 1917, what they dreamt of, and what we dreamt of, independence. And now God has blessed us with some resources where we can turn our dreams into reality. We are not going to allow them to push us back into the gutter. That's why we come here every evening, to mobilize, mobilize, mobilize. We are expanding, as I said, tomorrow night, Black Matters debut. Tomorrow night, Black Matters. And then on the weekend, we have the podcast. Talk a little bit of cricket on Saturday, and then open word on Sunday. We're taking a break on Monday for now. But I'm apologizing to Mr. Duncan for taking a little bit of his time tonight, but that's all right. You all stay with us. And at 9 o'clock, Guyana time, Mark Benshop is going to be here with Straight Up. Straight Up. And I always like to say, I say that all the time. So I'm buttering up Mark. He's the pioneer with this thing. When the rest of we didn't believe this thing had a future, he's been fighting up with it. So Mark at 9 o'clock. Good night. See you all tomorrow night for Black Matters.
Please help keep Politics 101 on social media and broadcast television. If you are in North America, please donate via Cash App or PayPal.
If you are in Guyana and the Caribbean and don't have access to Cash App and PayPal, email your pledge to dhines6106@aol.com and we will direct you how to get your donation to us. Thank you in advance for your donation.